You are breathing right now, and in this simple act, something extraordinary is happening. The air flowing gently into your lungs carries with it a gift that was created just for you by a living tree somewhere in the world. Feel the soft rise and fall of your chest as you rest here in complete safety. Each breath you take is automatic, effortless, requiring no thought or effort from your conscious mind. Your body knows exactly what to do with each breath. As air enters through your nose or mouth, it travels down into your lungs where millions of tiny air sacs wait patiently to receive it. In those microscopic spaces, something beautiful occurs. The oxygen in that breath crosses into your bloodstream, beginning a journey to every cell in your body. Your heart pumps this oxygen-rich blood through vessels that reach every corner of your being, from the tips of your fingers to the crown of your head. Oxygen travels to nourish and sustain you, and as your cells use this precious oxygen, they create something in return. Carbon dioxide forms naturally as your body does its gentle work of living. This carbon dioxide travels back through your bloodstream to your lungs. When you exhale, you release it into the air around you, completing one half of an ancient conversation. But where did that oxygen come from that now flows through your blood? It was not always floating free in the atmosphere, waiting to be breathed. That oxygen was born inside the green leaves of a tree. Perhaps it came from an oak tree standing quietly in a nearby forest, its branches swaying gently in the breeze. Or maybe your oxygen traveled from much farther away. It might have been created by a towering pine in a distant mountain range, or a graceful birch beside a peaceful lake. The tree that made your oxygen used sunlight, water, and the very carbon dioxide that other breathing creatures had exhaled. In its leaves, through a process both simple and miraculous, it transformed these basic ingredients into the oxygen you now depend upon. This means that every breath connects you to the living world around you. You are not separate from nature, but intimately woven into its patterns and rhythms. As you continue breathing naturally and easily, you can rest in the knowledge that countless trees are working quietly to create the air you need. They ask for nothing in return except the carbon dioxide you naturally release. This invisible partnership has been continuing for millions of years. Long before humans walked the earth, plants were breathing in their own way, creating the atmosphere that would one day sustain all animal life. Tonight, as you rest here in perfect safety, this ancient exchange continues. Trees and forests around the world are quietly creating oxygen, even in the darkness, preparing the air you will breathe tomorrow. Your breath connects you to something much larger than yourself. It links you to every forest, every tree, every green leaf that has ever captured sunlight and transformed it into life. And as you drift deeper into relaxation, you can trust that this conversation between your breath and the breath of trees will continue without any effort from you. All is well, and you are exactly where you need to be. The oxygen flowing through your body right now began its journey in a place of quiet magic. Somewhere in the world, in a leaf no bigger than your hand, sunlight touched green cells and began the gentle process of creating the air you breathe. Imagine for a moment the tree that made your oxygen. Picture its roots reaching deep into the earth, drawing up water that has traveled through soil and stone. See its trunk rising strong and steady, carrying that water upward through channels too small to see. The water climbs higher and higher, defying gravity through the tree's own gentle strength. Finally, that water reaches the leaves, where it meets two other essential ingredients. Carbon dioxide from the air enters through tiny pores in each leaf, while sunlight bathes everything in golden energy. Inside each leaf, millions of microscopic workshops wait for these three gifts to arrive. When water, carbon dioxide, and sunlight come together, the most important process on Earth begins to unfold. These tiny green workshops, called chloroplasts, contain a substance that gives leaves their beautiful color. This green material, chlorophyll, acts like the most sophisticated solar panel ever created. When sunlight strikes chlorophyll, it captures that light energy with perfect efficiency. The energy becomes the power source for transforming simple ingredients into the complex chemistry of life. The tree takes the carbon dioxide that you and other breathing creatures have exhaled. It combines this with the water drawn up from its roots, using the captured sunlight as energy for the transformation. Through this gentle alchemy, the tree creates two precious gifts. It makes sugar to feed itself and grow strong. And as a bonus of this process, it releases pure oxygen into the air. This oxygen drifts away from the leaf on the slightest breeze. It joins the vast ocean of air that surrounds our planet, mixing and flowing until it eventually finds its way to you. The tree asks for nothing in return except the carbon dioxide you naturally exhale. What is waste to you becomes food for the tree, while what the tree releases becomes the very essence of your life. This partnership is so perfect it seems almost designed. You breathe in what trees create, and trees use what you breathe out, in an endless cycle of mutual support. Every tree around you is engaged in this quiet work. The maple outside your window, the distant forest you visited last summer, the houseplant sitting peacefully in your living room. Each one is breathing in its own way, taking in carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen in a rhythm as steady as your heartbeat. They are your breathing partners, working silently to maintain the air you depend upon. As you rest here, feeling your breath flow naturally and easily, you can sense this invisible connection. You are part of a breathing web that includes every green plant on Earth. The forests of the world are like vast lungs, breathing in carbon dioxide and breathing out oxygen. And you, with your own lungs, complete the circle by breathing in their gift and returning what they need. This relationship has been perfected over millions of years. It is reliable, constant, and requires no effort from your conscious mind to maintain. Tonight, as you prepare for peaceful sleep, trees around the world continue their quiet work. In tropical rainforests where it is daylight, leaves are actively creating oxygen through the power of the sun. Even in places where darkness has fallen, trees continue to serve the breathing world in their own gentle way. They hold oxygen in their tissues, releasing it slowly into the night air. You can rest completely in this knowledge. The partnership between your breath and the breath of trees is ancient, reliable, and will continue long after you drift into peaceful dreams. As we prepare to explore deeper into this miraculous process, you can simply breathe naturally and let yourself be amazed by the simple fact that every breath connects you to the living green world that surrounds and sustains you. Inside every leaf that creates your oxygen, there exists a world more intricate and beautiful than the finest workshop ever built by human hands. These green factories operate in perfect silence, powered by nothing more than sunlight and the tree's own gentle wisdom. If you could shrink down small enough to walk inside a single leaf, you would find yourself in a landscape of wonder. Millions of tiny green chambers float like emerald balloons in a sea of clear plant fluid. These microscopic workshops, the chloroplasts, are where the magic of oxygen creation happens. Each one is smaller than the tiniest speck of dust, yet contains all the machinery needed to transform sunlight into life. Within each chloroplast, layers of green membranes stack like tiny pancakes. These membranes hold the chlorophyll molecules that give leaves their beautiful color and capture the energy of the sun. When morning sunlight first touches a leaf, it awakens these sleeping workshops. The chlorophyll molecules begin to vibrate with captured light energy, like tiny green bells ringing with the frequency of sunshine. This captured light becomes the power that drives everything else. It energizes the leaf's ability to split water molecules and rearrange carbon dioxide into new forms of matter. The leaf draws water up from the tree's roots through microscopic tubes that run like tiny rivers through every branch and twig. This water carries dissolved minerals that the tree has gathered from deep in the earth. At the same time, carbon dioxide from the air enters the leaf through thousands of tiny pores called stomata. These natural doorways can open and close like microscopic mouths, controlling exactly how much gas flows in and out. Inside the chloroplasts, water and carbon dioxide meet in the presence of energized chlorophyll. The light energy breaks apart the water molecules, freeing the oxygen atoms that were bound within them. This freed oxygen has nowhere to go but out into the air, where it becomes part of the atmosphere you breathe. It is released as a gift, a byproduct of the tree's own need to create food for itself. Meanwhile, the carbon from the carbon dioxide combines with other elements to form glucose, the sugar that feeds the tree. This glucose travels through the tree's tissues, providing energy for growth, repair, and all the quiet processes of tree life. Every single leaf on every tree is performing this miraculous transformation. The oak tree in the park, the pine forest on the distant mountain, the tiny seedling pushing up through sidewalk cracks. Each leaf contains millions of these green workshops, all working together in perfect coordination. They require no supervision, no maintenance, no fuel except sunlight, water, and the carbon dioxide that breathing creatures naturally provide. The efficiency of this process is beyond anything humans have ever created. These biological solar panels capture light energy and convert it with nearly perfect precision, wasting almost nothing. As you breathe peacefully right now, countless leaves around the world are engaged in this quiet work. Some are basking in bright morning sunlight. Others are catching the last golden rays of evening. The oxygen they create doesn't stay trapped in the leaf. It flows out into the air currents, mixing with the vast atmosphere that surrounds our planet like a protective blanket. Wind carries this fresh oxygen across continents and oceans. It rises high into the sky and settles into valleys, ensuring that wherever breathing creatures live, the gift of trees can reach them. You are breathing some of this oxygen right now. It may have been created moments ago by a tree in your neighborhood, or it might have traveled thousands of miles from a forest you will never see. This oxygen carries with it the energy of the sunlight that created it. In a very real sense, you are breathing transformed sunshine, solar energy that has been converted into a form your body can use. As you rest here in complete safety, you can marvel at the elegant simplicity of this process. Trees ask for nothing but the simplest ingredients, and from these they create the very foundation of your life. Tomorrow we will explore how trees accomplish this miracle, how they move water and nutrients through their bodies, and how they coordinate their efforts across entire forests. But for now, you can simply rest in gratitude for the countless green workshops that are quietly creating each breath you take. Deep within every leaf, a dance of extraordinary beauty is taking place right now. Sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide come together in a choreography so perfect it has sustained all life on Earth for billions of years. Picture a single ray of sunlight as it travels 93 million miles from the sun to touch the surface of a leaf. This light carries energy that left the sun's surface just 8 minutes ago, racing through space to power the creation of your next breath. When this light strikes the chlorophyll in a leaf, something magical happens. The chlorophyll molecule captures the light's energy like a perfectly tuned antenna, absorbing the red and blue wavelengths while reflecting the green light that gives leaves their beautiful color. This captured energy transforms the chlorophyll into an excited state, like a tiny green battery that has just been charged. The energized chlorophyll now has the power to break apart water molecules in a process so gentle it happens without any violence or force. Water molecules drawn up from the tree's roots, arrive at the chloroplasts, carrying the memory of their journey through soil and stone. Each molecule consists of 2 hydrogen atoms, bonded to 1 oxygen atom, held together by invisible forces. The energized chlorophyll splits these water molecules with surgical precision. The hydrogen atoms are captured and saved for later use, while the oxygen atoms are released as a gift to the breathing world. This freed oxygen bubbles up through the leaf's tissues like tiny pearls of life. It flows out through the leaf's pores into the surrounding air, where it joins the vast ocean of atmosphere that sustains all breathing creatures. Meanwhile, carbon dioxide that entered the leaf from the air becomes part of an intricate molecular dance. The hydrogen atoms freed from water molecules combine with carbon and oxygen in precise arrangements, forming glucose molecules. This glucose is the tree's food, created from nothing more than air, water, and sunlight. It provides the energy the tree needs to grow taller, to extend its roots deeper, to create new leaves and branches. The tree stores some of this glucose in its trunk and roots, saving energy for times when sunlight is scarce. Some glucose travels immediately to growing tips of branches, fueling the creation of new leaves that will capture even more sunlight. This entire process happens millions of times every second in every leaf. Each chloroplast contains hundreds of chlorophyll molecules, all working together in perfect synchronization. The efficiency of this biological machinery surpasses anything humans have ever invented. These molecular workshops waste almost no energy, converting sunlight into chemical energy with remarkable precision. As this process continues, the leaf releases not only oxygen but also water vapor. This transpiration creates a gentle cooling effect, like the tree's own natural air conditioning system. The water vapor rises into the air, eventually forming clouds that will bring rain to nourish other trees and plants. Even the tree's breathing contributes to the great cycles that sustain life across the planet. You can imagine this process happening right now in trees all around you. Every leaf on every tree is engaged in this quiet alchemy, transforming the basic elements of earth, air, and fire into the breath of life. The oak tree outside your window is splitting water molecules and releasing oxygen. The distant forest you can barely see on the horizon is engaged in the same gentle work, multiplied across millions of leaves. Even the smallest plants participate in this grand collaboration. Grass beneath your feet, flowers in garden beds, algae floating in ponds and oceans, all contributing their share of oxygen to the air you breathe. This process requires no effort from your conscious mind, no management or oversight from human intelligence. It is a gift that flows freely from the plant kingdom to all breathing creatures. As you rest here, breathing naturally and easily, you are receiving the direct benefit of countless molecular dances happening in leaves around the world. Each breath you take contains oxygen that was created through this beautiful process. The sunlight that powered the creation of your oxygen may have struck a leaf this morning, or yesterday, or last week, but regardless of when it was made, that oxygen carries with it the energy of our nearest star, transformed into a form your body can use. Tonight, as you prepare for peaceful sleep, this process continues in forests around the world, where the sun is shining. Leaves are actively creating oxygen through photosynthesis, adding to the vast reservoir of breathable air. Tomorrow we will explore how trees move water and nutrients through their bodies to support this miraculous process, and how they communicate with each other to coordinate their efforts. But for now, you can simply rest in wonder at the elegant dance of light, water, and air that creates each precious breath. Within every tree that creates your oxygen, an intricate network of invisible rivers flows day and night, carrying the water and nutrients essential for the magical process of turning sunlight into breath. These hidden waterways work with such quiet efficiency that the tree never struggles, never strains, but simply draws what it needs from deep within the earth. Imagine the roots of a tree spreading far beneath the ground, reaching out like gentle fingers into the dark, rich soil. These roots extend much farther than you might expect, often stretching out beyond the tree's canopy in an underground mirror of the branches above. Each root is covered with millions of tiny root hairs, so small they are invisible to your eyes. These delicate structures increase the root's surface area enormously, creating countless points of contact with the soil and the water it holds. Through these root hairs, water enters the tree, through a process so gentle it requires no pumping, no mechanical force. The water simply flows from where there is more to where there is less, following natural laws that have governed life for millions of years. This water carries with it dissolved minerals that the tree needs for its health and growth. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and dozens of other nutrients flow upward through the tree's body in this life-giving stream. The water travels through specialized tubes called xylem, which run like tiny pipelines from the roots all the way to the highest leaves. These tubes are so narrow that thousands of them could fit within the width of a human hair. As water evaporates from the leaves through transpiration, it creates a gentle suction that draws more water up from the roots. This process works like a natural pump, powered by the sun's energy and requiring no moving parts or external energy source. The tree also has a second circulatory system called phloem, which carries the glucose created in the leaves down to the roots and throughout the tree's body. This sweet sap provides energy for growth and maintenance of every part of the tree. These two systems work together like the tree's cardiovascular network, ensuring that every cell receives both the water and nutrients it needs from the soil, and the energy-rich glucose created by photosynthesis in the leaves. But trees have discovered something even more remarkable than individual efficiency. Beneath the forest floor, an invisible network connects tree to tree in a web of mutual support and communication. Tiny fungal threads called mycorrhizae form partnerships with tree roots, extending the tree's reach even further into the soil. These fungal partners can access nutrients that the tree's roots cannot reach alone. In exchange for sharing nutrients, the fungi receive some of the glucose that the tree creates through photosynthesis. This partnership benefits both organisms, creating a relationship that has evolved over millions of years. These fungal networks connect not just one tree to the soil, but tree to tree across vast distances. Through these living cables, trees can share resources, sending nutrients and water to neighbors that may be struggling. A large, healthy tree can support smaller trees in its vicinity, sharing excess glucose through the underground network. Parent trees can nurture their offspring, ensuring the survival of the next generation even in challenging conditions. When a tree is attacked by insects or disease, it can send chemical signals through this network to warn neighboring trees. These warned trees can then begin producing defensive compounds before the threat reaches them. This means that the forest operates not as a collection of competing individuals, but as a cooperative community. Trees that create your oxygen are supported by and support other trees in an intricate web of mutual care. The water that flows through these trees connects them to the great cycles of the planet. Rain that falls on the forest canopy is captured by leaves and funneled down trunks to the roots below. Some of this water is used immediately for photosynthesis and transported nutrients. Some is stored in the tree's tissues for times of drought, and some is released back into the atmosphere through transpiration, eventually forming new clouds. As you breathe peacefully right now, you are connected to this vast network of flowing water and nutrients. The oxygen in your lungs was created by trees that are nourished by underground rivers and supported by fungal partnerships you cannot see. This invisible infrastructure operates continuously, requiring no maintenance or management from human intelligence. It is a system of such elegance and efficiency that it has sustained forests for hundreds of millions of years. Tonight, as you rest in complete safety, water continues to flow upward through countless trees around the world. Nutrients travel through fungal networks, and trees share resources in the darkness, preparing for tomorrow's work of creating oxygen. You can trust completely in these ancient systems that support the creation of every breath you take. They are reliable, self-maintaining, and designed by millions of years of evolution to provide exactly what life needs to flourish. In the quiet forest where your oxygen is born, trees are engaged in conversations you cannot hear, sharing information through a secret language that scientists have only recently begun to understand. These gentle giants communicate with chemical whispers, electrical signals, and underground networks that connect entire forests in webs of mutual care and protection. When a tree detects danger, perhaps from insects beginning to chew on its leaves, it immediately begins producing chemical compounds that make its tissues less appealing to the attackers. But the tree does not keep this defensive strategy to itself. Through its leaves, the threatened tree releases airborne chemicals that drift on the slightest breeze to neighboring trees. These molecular messages carry specific information about the type of threat and the best defensive response. Trees that receive these chemical warnings begin producing their own protective compounds before the danger reaches them. They prepare their defenses in advance, creating a community-wide response to threats that might affect the entire forest. This chemical communication happens continuously, creating an invisible atmosphere of shared information above the forest canopy. Trees are constantly sampling the air, reading the molecular messages that tell them about conditions throughout their community. But the most sophisticated communication happens through the underground fungal networks that connect tree roots across vast distances. These living cables carry not just nutrients and water, but complex chemical signals that coordinate forest-wide responses. Through these networks, a mother tree can recognize her own offspring and provide them with extra resources when they need help. Large, established trees act like wise elders, sharing their abundance with younger trees that are still developing their ability to capture sunlight. When an old tree is dying, it can transfer much of its stored carbon and nutrients to its neighbors through these underground connections. The tree's final gift ensures that its accumulated resources continue to support the forest community. Different species of trees can communicate through these networks, sharing resources across the boundaries that humans might imagine separate them. A Douglas fir can send nutrients to a paper birch and receive different nutrients in return. This cooperation extends even to trees' relationship with the soil itself. Trees release specific chemicals through their roots that encourage the growth of beneficial bacteria and fungi, while discouraging harmful organisms. The forest floor becomes a living pharmacy where trees cultivate the microbial communities that support their health. Each tree species encourages slightly different soil communities, creating diverse underground ecosystems. Trees also communicate through electrical signals that travel through their tissues, much like nerve impulses in animals. When one part of a tree experiences stress, this information travels quickly throughout the tree's body, allowing coordinated responses. These electrical signals can even travel through the fungal networks, carrying information from tree to tree at speeds that allow rapid forest-wide responses to changing conditions. The timing of seasonal changes is coordinated through these communication networks. Trees share information about temperature, day length, and moisture levels, helping the entire forest prepare together for winter dormancy or spring awakening. When you walk through a forest, you are moving through this invisible web of communication. Every step takes you past chemical signals, underground networks, and electrical conversations that maintain the health of the community that creates your oxygen. The trees around you are not silent, solitary beings, but active participants in a complex social network. They share resources, warn each other of dangers, care for their young, and support their elders in ways that mirror the best qualities of human communities. This cooperation ensures that forests remain stable and productive across centuries and millennia. Individual trees may live and die, But the forest community persists, continuously creating the oxygen that sustains all breathing life. As you rest here, breathing the oxygen created by these cooperative communities, you can appreciate the profound intelligence that operates in nature. Trees have evolved strategies for mutual support that ensure the survival and prosperity of the whole forest. The breath you are taking right now was created not by a single tree working alone, but by a tree that was supported, nourished, and protected by an entire community of forest beings working together. This cooperation extends to you as well. The forest community that creates your oxygen asks for nothing in return except the carbon dioxide you naturally exhale. You are welcomed into this ancient partnership simply by virtue of being a breathing creature. Tonight, as you prepare for peaceful sleep, forest communities around the world continue their quiet conversations. They share resources in the darkness, tend to their young, and prepare for tomorrow's work of transforming sunlight into the breath of life. You can rest completely in the knowledge that these wise communities have been perfecting their cooperation for millions of years. They know exactly how to create the oxygen you need, and they do so with a generosity and intelligence that asks nothing from you but your natural participation in the great cycles of breath. Tomorrow we will explore how these forest communities contribute to the vast atmospheric systems that regulate our planet's climate and weather, ensuring that the oxygen they create can reach every corner of the earth where breathing creatures live. The forests that create your oxygen are part of something much grander than individual trees or even forest communities. They are the breathing organs of entire continents, inhaling carbon dioxide and exhaling oxygen on a scale so vast it shapes the very atmosphere of our planet. Imagine looking down at Earth from high above, where you can see entire continents spread out below you like a living map. From this perspective, you can observe the great green lungs of the world, the massive forests that regulate the breath of the planet itself. The Amazon rainforest alone produces about 20% of the world's oxygen, earning it the name, the lungs of the earth. This vast green expanse breathes in carbon dioxide and breathes out oxygen with such power that it influences weather patterns across the globe. As you rest here breathing peacefully, the Amazon's millions of trees are engaged in photosynthesis, creating oxygen that will eventually mix with the global atmosphere. Some of the air you breathe tonight may have been created in that distant rainforest weeks or months ago. The boreal forests that stretch across Canada, Alaska, and Siberia form another massive breathing system. These northern forests of spruce, fir, and pine create oxygen while also storing enormous amounts of carbon in their wood and in the soil beneath them. Temperate forests in North America, Europe, and Asia add their breath to the global atmosphere. Each forest type contributes its own rhythm to the planet's breathing, creating oxygen during their growing seasons and storing carbon year-round. Even smaller forests and woodlands play crucial roles in this continental breathing. The forest near your home, the trees lining city streets, the patches of woodland scattered across the landscape, all contribute to the vast atmospheric cycles that sustain life. These forests do more than simply create oxygen. They regulate the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, acting like a global thermostat that helps maintain Earth's climate within ranges suitable for life. When forests photosynthesize, they remove carbon dioxide from the air and store the carbon in their wood, roots, and soil. This process helps prevent the atmosphere from accumulating too much carbon dioxide, which could lead to dangerous climate changes. The oxygen forests create doesn't stay local to where it was produced. Global wind patterns carry this life-giving gas around the planet, mixing it thoroughly with the atmosphere so that breathing creatures everywhere can benefit. Trade winds carry oxygen from tropical forests toward the poles. Jet streams transport it across continents, Ocean breezes bring forest-created oxygen to islands and coastal regions, thousands of miles from the nearest trees. This global circulation means that you are breathing oxygen created by forests you will never see. In countries you may never visit, your breath connects you to the Amazon, to the forests of Siberia, to tropical woodlands in Africa and Asia. The seasonal rhythms of different forests ensure that oxygen production continues year-round somewhere on Earth. When northern forests enter winter dormancy, tropical forests continue their active photosynthesis in regions where seasons bring rain rather than snow. This planetary breathing system has been operating for hundreds of millions of years. Long before humans existed, it has survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and massive changes in Earth's climate, continuously adapting to maintain the atmospheric conditions that support life. The forests also influence weather patterns through their transpiration, releasing water vapor that forms clouds and brings rain to regions far from the forests themselves. The Amazon rainforest creates much of its own rainfall through this process, while also contributing moisture to weather systems across South America. Forest fires, while sometimes destructive, are also part of these grand cycles. They release stored carbon back to the atmosphere while creating space for new growth that will capture carbon again, maintaining the dynamic balance that has sustained life for eons. As you breathe naturally and easily right now, you are participating in these vast atmospheric cycles. The carbon dioxide you exhale will eventually reach forests around the world, where it will be transformed back into oxygen by the endless generosity of trees. This means your breath is part of a global conversation that includes every forest on Earth. You exhale what they need, and they create what you need, in cycles that connect all breathing life across continents and oceans. The reliability of this system is profound, despite all the changes that have occurred on Earth over millions of years. Forests have continued to create oxygen and regulate atmospheric gases with remarkable consistency. Tonight, as you rest in complete safety, this planetary breathing continues. Forests in different time zones are creating oxygen as the sun moves across the sky, ensuring that the global atmosphere remains rich with the breath of life. You can trust completely in these vast natural systems that operate far beyond human control or management. They are self-regulating, self-maintaining, and designed by millions of years of evolution to support all breathing creatures. Tomorrow we will explore how these grand cycles change with the seasons, and how the rhythms of forest breathing connect to the natural rhythms that govern all life on Earth. The forests that create your oxygen breathe with the rhythm of seasons, their patterns of oxygen production rising and falling like a vast, slow heartbeat that pulses in harmony with Earth's journey around the sun. These seasonal rhythms connect you to the most ancient cycles of life on our planet. In spring, as days grow longer and warmer, deciduous forests begin to awaken from their winter rest. Buds that have waited patiently through months of cold begin to unfurl, revealing tender new leaves that are eager to capture the strengthening sunlight. These young leaves are particularly active in photosynthesis, their fresh chloroplasts working with remarkable efficiency to convert the abundant spring sunshine into oxygen. The forest's breath quickens as millions of new leaves join the work of creating the air you breathe. As you rest here now, you can imagine spring forests around the world beginning their seasonal surge of oxygen production. Trees that stood bare through winter are clothing themselves in green, preparing for months of active breathing that will enrich the global atmosphere. Summer brings the peak of forest breathing in temperate regions. Long days and warm temperatures create ideal conditions for photosynthesis, and the forest's oxygen production reaches its annual maximum during these months of abundance. The full canopy of mature leaves works together like a vast green factory, capturing sunlight from dawn to dusk and transforming it into the breath of life. Summer forests produce more oxygen than they need for their own respiration, generously sharing their surplus with the breathing world. During these peak months, the forest transpiration also reaches its maximum, releasing water vapor that helps create the summer thunderstorms that bring nourishing rain back to the trees. The forest participates in creating its own weather, demonstrating the elegant cycles that sustain life. As autumn approaches, deciduous trees begin preparing for winter in ways that seem almost magical. They gradually reduce their oxygen production while reabsorbing valuable nutrients from their leaves, storing these resources in their roots and trunk for the dormant season ahead. The beautiful colors of autumn leaves reflect this process of preparation. As chlorophyll breaks down and is withdrawn from the leaves, other pigments become visible, painting the forest in brilliant reds, oranges, and yellows before the leaves finally fall. Even as deciduous trees prepare for dormancy, evergreen trees continue their steady work of photosynthesis throughout the winter months. Pine, spruce, fir, and other conifers maintain their needles and continue creating oxygen even in cold weather. These evergreen forests provide a baseline of oxygen production that continues year-round, ensuring that the planet's breathing never stops completely. Their steady contribution balances the seasonal variations of deciduous forests. In tropical regions near the equator, seasonal changes follow different patterns based on wet and dry seasons rather than temperature changes. These forests may actually increase their oxygen production during cooler, wetter months when conditions are most favorable for growth. This global diversity of seasonal patterns means that somewhere on Earth, forests are always actively creating oxygen. As northern forests enter winter dormancy, southern hemisphere forests are entering their growing season, maintaining the planet's oxygen supply. The seasonal rhythms of forest breathing connect to your own natural rhythms in ways you may not consciously notice. Your body responds to changing day length and seasonal light patterns just as trees do, following ancient biological clocks that evolved over millions of years. During winter months, when local deciduous trees are dormant, you may find yourself breathing more deeply and slowly, unconsciously adapting to the season's quieter energy. Your breathing naturally harmonizes with the seasonal rhythms of the forests that sustain you. Spring often brings a sense of renewed energy and deeper breathing as forests around you begin their surge of new growth and increased oxygen production. You participate in the seasonal awakening even if you spend most of your time indoors. Summer's abundance of forest-created oxygen may contribute to the sense of vitality and energy that many people feel during the longer, warmer days. The peak of forest breathing coincides with peak activity in much of the natural world. As you breathe peacefully right now, you are connected to these ancient seasonal rhythms that have governed life on Earth for hundreds of millions of years. Your breath participates in cycles that are far older than human civilization. The trees that create your oxygen follow seasonal patterns that their ancestors have followed for countless generations. These rhythms are reliable, predictable, and perfectly adapted to support life through all the changing conditions that seasons bring. Tonight, as you prepare for restful sleep, you can trust in these seasonal cycles that ensure a continuous supply of oxygen, regardless of the time of year. Somewhere on Earth, forests are always breathing, always creating the air that sustains all life. You can rest completely in the knowledge that these seasonal rhythms will continue long after you drift into peaceful dreams. They are part of the fundamental patterns that make life possible, as reliable as the rising and setting of the sun. Tomorrow, we will explore how you fit into these ancient patterns, and how your own breathing connects you to the long story of life on Earth. Your breath connects you to a story that began billions of years ago, when the first tiny organisms learned to capture sunlight and transform it into life. Every breath you take links you to this ancient lineage, making you part of an unbroken chain of breathing that stretches back to the very dawn of life on Earth. Long before there were forests, before there were trees, before there was even oxygen in the atmosphere, Simple, single-celled organisms floating in ancient seas discovered the secret of photosynthesis. These microscopic pioneers began the process that would eventually create the air you breathe tonight. For millions of years, these early photosynthetic bacteria worked quietly in the oceans, splitting water molecules and releasing oxygen as a byproduct of their need to create food from sunlight. At first, this oxygen was absorbed by iron and other minerals in the sea, but gradually it began to accumulate in the atmosphere. This ancient oxygen was toxic to most life forms that existed at the time, causing what scientists call the Great Oxidation Event. But some organisms learned to use this new gas, discovering that oxygen could provide far more energy than any process available before. Your cells carry the memory of this ancient discovery. The mitochondria that power every cell in your body are descendants of those early bacteria that learned to breathe oxygen. They still use the same basic process that evolved billions of years ago. As you rest here breathing naturally, your mitochondria are using oxygen in exactly the same way their ancient ancestors did. They combine oxygen with glucose to create energy, producing carbon dioxide and water as gentle byproducts of this cellular breathing. Over millions of years, photosynthetic organisms evolved from simple bacteria into more complex algae, and eventually into the first land plants. Each evolutionary step refined the process of capturing sunlight and creating oxygen, leading eventually to the forests that sustain you today. The first trees appeared hundreds of millions of years ago, and with them came a dramatic increase in the planet's oxygen production. These ancient forests created atmospheric conditions that allowed the evolution of larger, more complex animals that could take advantage of oxygen's energy-rich properties. Your lungs evolved specifically to extract oxygen from the air that ancient forests created. The intricate structure of your respiratory system, with its branching airways and millions of tiny air sacs, represents millions of years of evolutionary refinement. Every breath you take demonstrates the perfect partnership between plant and animal life that has been developing for hundreds of millions of years. Plants create oxygen as a byproduct of making their own food, while animals use that oxygen to power their bodies and produce the carbon dioxide that plants need. This partnership is so fundamental that neither plants nor animals could exist without it. You are not separate from the natural world, but intimately woven into its most basic processes, dependent on and contributing to the cycles that sustain all life. The oxygen in your blood right now carries the signature of this ancient relationship. It was created by the same process that has been operating since life first learned to harness the power of sunlight, refined over billions of years but fundamentally unchanged. Your breathing connects you not only to present-day forests, but to every photosynthetic organism that has ever lived. The oxygen you breathe may have been created and breathed by countless other creatures before reaching you, cycling through the atmosphere in an endless dance of life. Ancient trees that lived millions of years ago contributed oxygen to the atmosphere that may still be circulating today. The breath of dinosaurs, of early mammals, of the first humans, all mixed with the vast atmospheric reservoir that you draw from with each inhalation. This means you are breathing the same air that has sustained life on Earth for millions of years. Your breath connects you to every creature that has ever lived, all sharing the same atmospheric commons that forests have maintained throughout Earth's history. The carbon dioxide you exhale will be used by plants to create new oxygen, continuing cycles that have operated since the first photosynthetic organisms began their work in ancient seas. Your breath becomes part of the ongoing story of life on Earth. As you breathe peacefully right now, you participate in processes that are both incredibly ancient and continuously renewed. Each breath is both a link to the deep past and a contribution to the ongoing future of life on our planet. Your body knows how to breathe without any conscious effort, because this knowledge is encoded in your cells, inherited from billions of years of ancestors who successfully participated in these same atmospheric cycles. The trees that create your oxygen are also inheritors of this ancient wisdom. They know how to capture sunlight and create oxygen, because this knowledge has been passed down through countless generations of photosynthetic organisms. Tonight, as you rest in complete safety, you can marvel at your place in this ancient story. You are not an accident or an afterthought, but a natural and essential part of cycles that have been perfected over billions of years. Your breath is both a gift from the past and a contribution to the future. The oxygen you use tonight will eventually return to the atmosphere, where it may sustain other breathing creatures for millions of years to come. You can rest completely in the knowledge that you belong to this ancient community of breathing beings. Your participation in these cycles is as natural and essential as the rising and setting of the sun. Every breath you take is a gift that arrives perfectly timed, created specifically for this moment by trees that have been preparing this oxygen for days, weeks, or months. As you breathe naturally and easily right now, you are receiving the culmination of countless small miracles that began with sunlight touching leaves somewhere in the world. The oxygen flowing into your lungs at this very moment carries with it the energy of the sun that powered its creation. In a very real sense, you are breathing transformed starlight, solar energy that has been converted by trees into a form your body can use to sustain life. This oxygen was born when water molecules were gently split apart in the chloroplasts of leaves, releasing oxygen atoms that had been bound in water since that water first formed. The oxygen you breathe may have been locked in water for thousands of years before a tree freed it for you. As this oxygen enters your bloodstream, it begins a journey to every cell in your body. Your heart pumps this oxygen-rich blood through thousands of miles of blood vessels, ensuring that every part of you receives the gift that trees have created. In your cells, this oxygen meets glucose that came from plants you have eaten, and together, they create the energy that powers every aspect of your life. Your thoughts, your heartbeat, your ability to heal and grow, all depend on this gentle partnership between oxygen and plant-derived nutrients. The carbon dioxide your cells produce as they use this oxygen is not waste but another gift in the endless cycle of breath. This carbon dioxide travels back through your bloodstream to your lungs, where you release it into the air for trees to use in creating new oxygen. This means that every breath is both a receiving and a giving. You receive the gift of oxygen that trees have created, and you give back the carbon dioxide that trees need to continue their work of photosynthesis. The breath you are taking right now connects you to trees around the world in this moment. Somewhere, leaves are releasing the oxygen you need, while other leaves are absorbing the carbon dioxide that other breathing creatures have provided. This exchange happens continuously, creating a global conversation between all breathing life. You speak in carbon dioxide, and trees answer in oxygen, in a dialogue that has been continuing for millions of years without interruption. The reliability of this exchange is profound. You never have to worry about whether there will be oxygen available for your next breath, because trees around the world are continuously creating more than enough for all breathing creatures. This generosity is built into the very nature of photosynthesis. Trees create oxygen not as a favor to breathing creatures, but as a natural consequence of their own need to make food from sunlight. Their self-care automatically provides for your care as well. The oxygen you breathe is always fresh, always pure, always perfectly suited to your body's needs. Trees create oxygen in exactly the form your cells can use, with no processing or purification required. As you rest here breathing peacefully, you can feel gratitude for this perfect partnership that requires no effort or management from your conscious mind. Your body knows exactly how to use the oxygen trees provide, and trees know exactly how to create the oxygen you need. This partnership extends beyond your individual breathing to include every breath you have ever taken and every breath you will take in the future. Trees have been creating oxygen for you since before you were born, and they will continue long after your individual breathing ends. The oxygen you breathed as a child was created by trees that may still be standing today. The oxygen you will breathe tomorrow is being created right now by trees around the world, preparing for your future needs. This continuity means you are held and supported by processes much larger and more reliable than any human system. The partnership between your breathing and tree breathing operates independently of human civilization, politics, or technology. You can trust completely in this ancient alliance between plant and animal life. It has sustained countless generations of breathing creatures and will continue to sustain countless more, with a reliability that surpasses anything humans have ever created. Tonight, as you prepare for peaceful sleep, this partnership continues without any need for your attention or effort. Trees around the world are creating oxygen in the darkness, preparing the air you will breathe when you wake. Your sleeping breath will be as perfectly supported as your waking breath. The oxygen you need for dreams, for healing, for the quiet work your body does during rest, is already being prepared by trees that work tirelessly on your behalf. Even in sleep, you will continue the gentle exchange of gases that connects you to the breathing world. Your body will release carbon dioxide that trees need, while trees provide the oxygen that sustains your sleeping body. This means you can rest completely, knowing that the most fundamental need of your body is being met by partners you may never see, in forests you may never visit, through processes that require no effort from your conscious mind. As you drift towards sleep, you can carry with you the knowledge that every breath is a gift. Every exhalation is a gift in return, and this exchange of gifts will continue as long as there are trees and breathing creatures sharing the atmosphere of our beautiful planet. As you settle into the gentle rhythms that will carry you towards sleep, your breathing naturally slows and deepens, participating in the same peaceful exchange with trees that will continue throughout your dreams. Even as your conscious mind begins to rest, your body maintains its ancient conversation with the forest world that creates each breath. Your sleeping breath follows patterns that have been perfected over millions of years of evolution. As you drift deeper into relaxation, your breathing becomes more regular, more rhythmic, settling into the steady pace that allows your body to rest and restore itself. This slower, deeper breathing during sleep actually makes more efficient use of the oxygen that trees create for you. Each breath draws air deeper into your lungs, allowing more complete exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the tiny air sacs where your blood meets the atmosphere. Trees continue their work of creating oxygen even in the darkness while you sleep. Although photosynthesis requires sunlight, trees store energy during daylight hours that allows them to maintain their basic life processes throughout the night. In forests around the world where it is daytime while you sleep, trees are actively engaged in photosynthesis, creating fresh oxygen that will eventually mix with the global atmosphere. The oxygen you breathe during your dreams may be arriving from trees on the other side of the planet. Your sleeping body uses oxygen for the essential work of healing and restoration that happens during rest. Cells throughout your body repair themselves, your brain processes the experiences of the day, and your immune system strengthens itself, all powered by the oxygen that trees have provided. The carbon dioxide you exhale during sleep carries away the gentle waste products of these restorative processes. This carbon dioxide drifts away from your sleeping form and eventually reaches trees that will transform it back into oxygen, completing cycles that continue even in your dreams. Your heart continues its steady work throughout the night, pumping oxygen-rich blood to every part of your sleeping body. This circulation happens automatically, requiring no conscious effort, sustained by the partnership between your breathing and the breathing of trees. Even your dreams are supported by this continuous exchange with the plant world. The oxygen that nourishes your brain during sleep helps create the conditions for the mysterious process of dreaming, where your mind processes experiences and emotions in ways that scientists are still working to understand. As you breathe peacefully in sleep, you participate in the global rhythms of atmospheric exchange that never pause, never rest, never require maintenance or oversight. These cycles operate with perfect reliability while you surrender to the restorative power of sleep. The forest communities that create your oxygen also follow their own rhythms during the night hours. Trees slow their metabolic processes, conserve energy, and prepare for the next day's work of photosynthesis when sunlight returns. Some trees actually increase their production of certain beneficial compounds during nighttime hours. These molecules may eventually reach you through the air, contributing to the complex chemistry of the atmosphere that supports not just breathing, but overall health and well-being. Your sleeping breath connects you to the quiet nighttime activities of forests around the world. While you rest, trees are engaged in their own forms of restoration, moving nutrients through their tissues, strengthening their root systems, and preparing for another day of creating oxygen. The air you breathe during sleep has been purified and enriched by its passage through forest ecosystems. Trees not only create oxygen, but also filter pollutants from the air, ensuring that the atmosphere remains clean and healthy for all breathing creatures. This purification happens continuously, so that even in urban environments, the air you breathe has been touched by the cleansing influence of trees and forests. Every breath during sleep draws from this vast atmospheric commons that forests maintain for all life. Your sleeping body trusts completely in the availability of oxygen, never worrying about whether the next breath will be there when you need it. This trust is well-founded, based on hundreds of millions of years of reliable partnership between breathing creatures and oxygen-creating plants. As you drift deeper into sleep, your breathing may become so quiet and gentle that it barely disturbs the air around you. Yet even these soft breaths are part of the grand exchange that connects you to trees and forests across the entire planet. The oxygen you use during your deepest sleep was created by the same process that has sustained life on Earth since long before humans existed. Your sleeping breath participates in cycles that are both incredibly ancient and continuously renewed. Tonight, as you rest in complete safety and peace, you can trust that this partnership will continue without any need for your attention or concern. Trees around the world are maintaining the atmospheric conditions that support your sleep, your dreams, and your gentle breathing. Your sleep itself becomes a form of meditation on the interconnectedness of all life. As you breathe slowly and peacefully, you demonstrate the profound trust that is possible when we recognize our place in the larger web of relationships that sustain all breathing creatures. Tomorrow you will wake refreshed, having spent the night in unconscious partnership with trees and forests around the world. But for now, you can simply rest in the knowledge that every sleeping breath connects you to the generous, life-giving work of the plant kingdom. In this final moment, before sleep carries you into dreams, you can rest in the complete understanding that your breath is part of an endless circle that connects all life on Earth. Every inhalation and exhalation participates in cycles so vast and ancient that they seem like the breathing of the planet itself. The oxygen flowing through your body right now will eventually return to the atmosphere, where it may travel around the world many times before being breathed by another creature. Your breath becomes part of the great atmospheric ocean that belongs to all life, shared freely among every breathing being. The carbon dioxide you release will drift on air currents until it reaches leaves that are waiting to transform it back into oxygen. Nothing is wasted in these perfect cycles. Nothing is lost. Everything flows in endless patterns of giving and receiving. You are held within these cycles like a child held in loving arms. The atmosphere that surrounds you is maintained by the continuous work of countless trees and plants, all contributing to the conditions that make your life possible. As your breathing slows and deepens with approaching sleep, you join the quiet rhythm that governs all life on Earth. Your breath harmonizes with the breathing of forests, the slow inhalation and exhalation of the planet itself. In forests around the world, trees are continuing their ancient work, even as you prepare for rest. Some are basking in sunlight and actively creating oxygen. Others are resting in darkness while maintaining the steady processes that sustain life. This continuity means you are never alone, never unsupported, never disconnected from the web of relationships that creates and maintains the air you breathe. Every breath connects you to this vast community of life. The trees that have created the oxygen in your lungs ask nothing from you except your natural participation in these cycles. They give freely, abundantly, continuously, powered by nothing more than sunlight, water, and the carbon dioxide that breathing creatures naturally provide. Your sleep will be sustained by oxygen that carries within it the energy of sunlight, the memory of water, and the generous chemistry of photosynthesis. You rest supported by the accumulated gifts of countless leaves working in perfect harmony. As you drift toward dreams, you can carry with you the knowledge that you belong to something infinitely larger and more beautiful than your individual existence. You are part of the breathing of the world, essential and welcomed and sustained. The breath that flows through you connects you to every tree that has ever lived, every forest that has ever grown, every leaf that has ever captured sunlight and transformed it into life. You breathe the legacy of millions of years of photosynthesis. Tomorrow, you will wake to air that has been continuously refreshed by trees working through the night. The oxygen you breathe upon waking will be as pure and life-giving as the oxygen you breathe now, maintained by processes that never tire, never fail, never ask for recognition. Your sleeping breath will be as perfectly supported as your waking breath. The partnership between your breathing and the breathing of trees operates beyond the boundaries of consciousness, deeper than thought, more reliable than any human creation. In your dreams tonight, you may find yourself walking through forests where every leaf whispers the secret of how sunlight becomes breath. You may feel yourself floating on currents of air that connect every breathing creature in an invisible web of mutual support. These dreams, if they come, will simply reflect the truth of your waking life. You are always walking through the invisible forest of the atmosphere, always floating on currents of air created by trees, always supported by the generous breathing of the plant kingdom. As sleep takes you now, your breath becomes a prayer of gratitude to all the trees that have made this moment possible. Your gentle exhalation carries this gratitude back to the world, where it joins the endless circulation of gifts between breathing creatures and oxygen creators. Rest now in complete peace, knowing that you are held by cycles older than mountains, more reliable than stars, more generous than any love you have ever known. Your breath is safe, your sleep is supported, and your dreams are sustained by the endless breathing of the world. The circle of breath that includes you will continue long after you drift into peaceful sleep. It will be here when you wake, ready to support another day of life, another day of participation in the beautiful partnership between your breathing and the breathing of trees. Sleep peacefully now, breathing gently, trusting completely in the ancient wisdom that connects your breath to the breath of forests, your life to the life of trees, your dreams to the endless dreaming of the earth itself. All is well, all is connected. All is breathing together in the vast, gentle rhythm that sustains all life. Rest now in this knowledge, and let sleep carry you into the heart of the breathing world.